I'm Dorothy Franklin. I teach at DeWitt Clinton School in Chicago, 7th grade language arts. Students come from many different backgrounds. Asian Pacific Islander is a high percentage here. Also European, Russian, Bosnian, and so on. The greatest challenge that I face is that by the time they reach me, too many of them are already turned off by reading. They do not enjoy the art form, which boggles my mind because I enjoy it immensely. And yet many middle school students come to me feeling either totally apathetic about it or just downright, I hate it, I can't stand it. So that is my greatest challenge to overcome. I found that seminar discussions are one way that I can engage my students in literature. During our last seminar, we read 2 short stories, Guests in the Promised Land and Passing.
Okay, the next story I want to share is one of my all-time favorites, and I chose to share it with guests because it shows an opposite of how this character is. See, we've been looking at Dick Gregory, Dr. Johns, Robert in this story. All of these people have something in common. What do they all have in common?
They have a lot of anger in them.
Yeah. They have a lot of anger in them, just a lot of anger.
They're also not afraid to express their opinions and how they feel.
Part 2 of the seminar focused on the second story, Passing, which offered a contrast to the first. The character in the first story basically is militant and fighting back against feeling oppressed as a young black person. The black in the second story has basically assimilated totally, immersed himself totally into the white culture. So it's like a contrast of how these 2 different characters deal with being black.
Now this fellow that I'm going to read to you now, he's a little different. He doesn't take that same approach. So I want you to think about how he is totally different from the other characters that we've been dealing with. This is written in the form of a son writing to the mother. And the title is Passing, because that's what it was called. You were passing for another color. Passing. Dear Ma, I felt like a dog passing you downtown last night and not speaking to you. You were great, though. Didn't give a sign that you even knew me, let alone I was your son. If I hadn't had the girl with me, Ma, we might have talked.
I always use third quarter as a time to examine black history. And what I believe they miss out on is the human side of it. And that's why I think literature is powerful. Because through literature, through fiction, you can look at this is how these people felt. This is what they went through. I also think it's important because many of our students have left war-torn countries, oppression in their countries, situations in their countries about their various religions. Over the years since I've been here, I can't count the number of students that said, oh, wow, the same thing happened to my people. And they had no idea that there was this commonality between groups. And so it just opens up a bigger dialogue.
I never knew they made a practice of saying such terrible things about us until I started passing and heard their conversations and lived their life. So what's happening so far?
I think that maybe he wrote this letter because he felt bad he ignored his mother.
Exactly. When did he ignore his mother?
When he was walking, he saw her.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't talk to her because he had a girl with her.
Mm-hmm. So what can we assume about the girl?
That she was white.
That she's white, yeah. If he's passing for white, then chances are he has a white girlfriend. And so he happens to pass his mom on the street and he keeps right on walking. He doesn't acknowledge her. And so that's why he's now writing to her, probably to explain why he did such a thing.
Maybe he was just quiet because he didn't want them to know that he's actually black, because maybe if he did react to it, they'd think he is black, so.
Okay, so you think he just sat quietly?
Yeah, because he was, maybe they would have did something to him because he was trying to fake as a white. That's what they would have thought.
Okay. Okay. Let me keep going. I stopped at important moments in the story, and I threw the questions out there, and they talked right then and there. And those questions dealt with two things. Number one, were they understanding what I was reading to them? And there were times that they weren't, and I may have had to back up and reread, or sometimes I had to go on and explain it because they simply lacked the background knowledge to understand that particular section. And then the other part of the questions were reactionary. What did you feel about that? And one question that was repeated, at least I think I had it at 5 pivotal points. How do you feel about the character now? I used to feel bad about it too. But now I'm glad you backed me up and told me to go ahead and get all I could out of life. That's what I'm going to do, Ma. I'm going to marry white and live white, and if any of my kids are born dark, I'll swear they aren't mine. I won't get caught in the mire of color again. Not me. I'm free, Ma. I'm free. Now what image do you have of him?
I think he's a jerk. I want to know what Kim thinks about Jack.
What do you think about Jack?
I think that Jack is ashamed of himself, and that I think he should just accept the way he is, like the way his mom's color of skin is.
But then he'd have to be a janitor. He'd have to sit at the back of the bus.
He won't get paid.
He'd get beaten up by police officers.
Yeah, but like he's trying to get away from his mom, and you know he doesn't want his family to see him. And if they run into each other, he doesn't want to say hi, and he's embarrassed.
Mm-hmm. And you just can't respect him for that. By the end of the letter, almost everyone had something to say about Jack. Everyone had a strong opinion about the way that he had treated his mother. Well, Ma, I will close because I promised to take my weakness to the movies this evening. Isn't she sweet to look at, all blonde and blue-eyed? We're making plans about our house when we get married. I will take a box at the post office for your mail. Anyhow, I'm glad there's nothing to stop letters from crossing the color line. Even if we can't meet often, we can write, can't we, Ma? With love from your son, Jack. Now what do you think about Jack?
He's a very sweet person.
He's a very sweet person, Anthony?
And I was like, sometimes he can be.
He can be sweet? What do you like about him? Let's start there. I said, what do you think about Jack? And you said, he's a very sweet person. And so I said, what do you like about him?
It's kindness about, like, even though he couldn't talk to his mom, he's still a writer. Like, that's what I would do. Even though.
So you took this letter as sweet? Who else agrees? Before we get to disagree, let's go with the agrees. Who you saw the letter as sweet. That was sweet. Wait, what? Not the whole, but just the idea that he, yeah, I understand.
Okay, I agree with him a little because, I mean, at least he doesn't forget about his family and just leaves and never writes to her or nothing. At least he like sends her some money or writes to her. But in another way, he's he's like embarrassed of what he is. Oh.
Okay.
I agree with Anthony a little bit, but I also disagree with him because I think the letter was sweet to his mom and everything. Because he said sorry for walking past her without talking to her, and like he was telling her like what he's gonna do with the white girl. But I still think he's a jerk because he's like leaving his family. He's telling him to move to a different state so they won't see each other, and he doesn't want to have no connection with them just by writing letters because you can never figure out who you're writing it to or anything like that. I don't think that's right.
I don't see any sweetness because, like, if I'm, like, walking down the street and I, like, see my mom and I don't, like, look at her, I don't feel right anymore because, like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. And I'm, like, at least show her some, like, respect. Like, at least say, like, hi. I don't care if I'm, like, lighter than her and I'm trying to be a part of the white society and stuff like that. I'm still gonna like love my mom. I don't want her to move away. And like, tell you the truth, I'm like a little bit of mama's boy. I love my mom. I love her.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a mama's boy. Umberto?
He looks more important on the white girl than his mom. Like he thinks the white girl is more important than his mom.
One of the things we always say at the beginning is, I am a voice in this world. I deserve to be heard. We interpret that as meaning everyone is entitled to their own opinion. You do not have to agree with anyone. You can disagree. But one rule we have since the beginning of this novel experience is you should be able to back it up with something, though. It shouldn't just be, oh, I disagree, and then you just leave it as a blanket statement. So when we're in seminar and students disagree with each other, that's okay. And actually, it's something that I promote, I advocate.
I would say if I would be his mother, Jack's mother, I wouldn't respect him. I wouldn't like how he respects his mother. I would say that I wouldn't like him, and I wouldn't talk to him or write him letters, anything, because I don't like how he didn't respect his mother when he saw her outside and didn't talk to her anything, even if he was with his girlfriend.
I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he just passed without his mother, without even looking at his mother.
Maria?
Okay, yeah, I don't think so that he likes his mom, because if he liked his mom, then he would go back to her, and that just makes him believe that he doesn't like his mom anymore and his brothers and sisters, because he just left them stay alone.
He likes his mom. He's giving her money so she can support, because he has the high-paying job, and he's also giving her letters, and he's telling her what's going on in his life to inform her. But he likes her, but he just doesn't want to be. He loves her actually, but he doesn't want to be caught around her, so he can get in trouble. And that's still not an excuse.
Okay. He has to understand that he could have all the respect and all the money in the world, but he can never have all the love from his family, because one day that he will need his family, and his family is not even going to look at him.
Arshad, you've been quiet. Why don't you take the final thought? Arshad, what's the final thought on the matter?
About what?
Any of this, whatever you feel. Shh, let Arshad have the final thought.
About his mom, I think he should move on with her and get a better job where she moved at, instead of ignoring her and stuff.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Nice discussion, people. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. You had some good ideas. Actually, we've had some good discussions all quarter. I've been pleased.
I had many wonderful feelings coming out of that exchange. I was proud of my students for being so respectful toward each other during discussion. I was impressed with the way that they delved deeper than the literal level of the context. And I especially liked the way many children encouraged each other to participate.